Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, halftime is over with. We are on to the third quarter. The third hour kicks off right now. Thanks for hanging out with us, whether it's on the radio dials at 105.1 FM or 790 AM online. You can stream us up at sportstalk1051.com, WYYradio.com. We've got your app. Download it, take it on the go. Video stream is also up and rolling on YouTube. You can join in on the Section 105 chat room over there, or that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. So we'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up here in just a little bit as we get set for Brewers Cardinals, game one of a 3-game series. We got Chad Patrick on the mound tonight for the Brew Crew. Brewers coming off of a series win with the Nationals. When you look across where things are at in Major League Baseball standings-wise, first of all, the Cubs just can you lose some games coming up here? But in the AL East, we'll start off with the American League. The Yankees ahead with Tampa Bay just 1.5 back, and then there's a gap because third place Toronto, they're 7 games behind. So right now, at least, in the American League East, it looks to be the Yankees and the Rays as the two teams chasing for that division lead. In the AL Central, it's close, but maybe not in terms of greatest, win-loss margins and such. Cleveland, 18-17, along with Detroit's 18-17. You've got the Chicago White Sox, who are in third. They're just 1.5 games back, 16-18. Kansas City, 2.5 back, and then the Minnesota Twins, just 3 back. 4 of the 5 teams, negative run differentials. The only positive is the Tigers at a plus 18. Kind of the same with the AL West. Similar story. There's only one team right now in the AL West. One team that has a winning record. No other team is above 500 right now. The top team, you did at the Athletics so far. 18-16, 2 games above 500. Wow. Next up is the Rangers, 16-18. Seattle, 16-19. They have a plus 2 run differential. That's best in the AL West. National League. Let's start with the National League East. You've got the Braves at 25-10. They are just cruising in this division right now. Cruising. This is a division with Philly, the Mets, and it's Phillies and the Mets, the 2 bottom feeders in this division. Braves are a plus 81 run differential. Everybody else is negative. The Phillies, minus 43. The Mets, minus 31. And then in the NL West, it's Dodgers. The Padres are just a half game back. Those are the only 2 teams that are above 500. Arizona's third. And then, of course, we know about the Central, still the best division in baseball right now, where every single team has a winning record. Cubbies, Cardinals, Reds, Brewers, Pirates. But you look across Major League Baseball, okay, as we are into the first full week of May now. The AL East, I don't think anybody's surprised with the Yankees at the top. Tampa Bay is just always there. We shouldn't be too surprised at it. It is surprising to see how poorly Boston is this year, and a little bit of a slow start for Toronto. AL Central, Cleveland's at top. Detroit's on top. Probably maybe a little surprised that Detroit's only just 1 game above 500 at this point. Kansas City's been a disappointment. 4 games under 500. Maybe a surprise with the White Sox. Pat Murphy, remember that opening series against the White Sox? Pat Murphy was very complimentary towards the White Sox, saying they're a young team, but they're going to be good. Well, right now they're just 2 games under 500. They've been 7-3 in their last 10. But the AL West, man, the Athletics. Hey, there was some talk about the Athletics. I got to give props to Mike Gibb. When we did preseason picks, he picked the Athletics to come out of the West, and got a long ways to go here. But man, just one team with a winning record in the AL West, and it's the Athletics. The NL East. The Braves are proving those out there who were very high on the Braves this year. Man, pat yourself on the backs. Now we'll see. Ronald Acuna Jr. is a little bit banged up with the hamstring, but man, 25-10 to begin the year. And then, of course, we all know the situations going on with the Mets and the Phillies. Easily, and the 2 biggest disappointments. With the Giants, they're at the bottom of their division too. They're 13-21. They've lost 6 in a row. Remember, they did something different this offseason and brought in a college manager to lead this ball club. Be curious to see how this thing continues throughout the season and at the end of the season. Where the Giants finish up on that thing. Because, it was a risk. You don't see it too often. Even, Pat Murphy, we talk about Pat Murphy with his college, days. But remember, he was a manager with the Padres for an interim. Then, obviously, Council's bench guy. So, he was cutting his teeth at the major league level before being the manager of the Brewers right now. Tony comes in, Tennessee, straight up to the majors. So, but that's kind of where things are at this point in time in the month of May. But all right. We'll get back to some more Brewers talk coming up here in just a little bit. You can continue to send us your thoughts on Mizorowski. Kind of an informal poll question. Are you ready to label him a Major League Baseball ace? Yay or nay? About 50-50 right now for a lot of you. About 50%. Where are you on that side? All right, you can send those on over. We've got... Zach says, fun little fact for Mizorowski. Fun little fact, the Miz has thrown over 100 pitches, over 100 miles per hour. I think the next closest guy is only at about 35 pitches. I know on Friday night, he was wheeling and dealing over 100 miles per hour at that point. But all right. Hey, we'll take a quick break. Plenty more baseball talk coming up. We'll be right back after these quick words. Road trip season is right around the corner. Are you and your vehicle ready to go the distance? Before you hit the highway, make sure that your vehicle is in top shape with the help from AJM Automotive. From oil changes and tire checks to brakes and engine work, their experienced team will make sure that you're ready for wherever the road takes you. And now with 2 convenient locations in Eau Claire, getting your vehicle serviced has never been easier. Plan the trip and AJM Automotive will handle the rest. Visit ajmautomotiveservices.com to schedule your appointment today. We've got a VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. This comes from Dave. Dave says best of the weekend. Got to give a shout out to Blue Gold Baseball being back in the WIAC Conference Tournament. That's a good one. We'll touch on that a little bit more coming up in the next hour for our local sports roundup. But yeah, Blue Gold Baseball, they're back into the WIAC Conference Tournament for the first time since 1995. Blue Gold Softball also in the WIAC Conference Tournament. So they will be in action later on this week. So, but again, we'll hit that up in our local sports roundup. Brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center, but definitely big time tip of the cap to Coach Patrick for Blue Gold Baseball. Obviously, Coach Leslie Huntington, Hall of Famer, getting their teams back to the conference tournaments too. So it's been a fun season for Blue Gold Baseball if you've been following along and such. So, but yeah, that's a good one. Appreciate that text. We got another best and the worst week from the weekend. Excuse me. Best of the weekend. Says Sam is Brewers taking 2 out of 3. Worst was my Wild losing last night. Wild dropping a 9-6 game to the Colorado Avalanche. So high-scoring hockey game. Well, it's kind of like a low-scoring NFL game. But later on today, we're going to be hearing from Jonathan Gannon, new defensive coordinator for the Packers. It's the first time that we are actually going to hear from Jonathan Gannon. So in the first hour, was it the first hour or second hour? It might have been the second hour, actually. We kind of threw out, what would you ask Jonathan Gannon if you were going to that press conference? First time he has talked since being hired to the defensive coordinator position for the Packers. Rick, a little bit earlier, had texted in saying this defense is in a unique situation. Priority number one is Parsons' role in the defense. I think that more players will be in specific roles in the front seven. Defense will transform as Parsons and Wyatt's snaps increase. The key to the season is LaFleur having the offense playing great. Needs to crack the whip this training camp. LaFleur did chat a little bit on Friday too with the media because it was rookie orientation, rookie camp this past weekend and such. And I don't want to dive into just tryout players and first glimpses of rookies and such, but just a couple of notes. One thing was kind of cool to see some of this was the first glimpse of some of the rookies. One cool thing I did see, Dennis Sutton, before he did his media session by his locker, introduced himself to every single media person that was there, shook hands, asked for their name, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought kind of a cool thing there too. But there was a comment from Matt LaFleur, though, I thought was maybe a little bit interesting. Not a whole lot was said, but he did say that, and this was from Matt Schneidman, I've been trying to do a better job of not just going to the quarterback room. I've been in a bunch of different rooms. Now, when you first hear that or you first read that, my mind instantly went, okay, the last few years, was he just exclusively in the quarterback room, hanging out with the quarterbacks, working with the quarterbacks? On the surface, it makes sense. That's his bread and butter. That's where he cut his teeth. Quarterback's coach, right? That's his go-to. That's his area of expertise. But in the same breath, it's like, but you're also a head coach. You delegate to the quarterback's coaches. You delegate to a lot of coaches. You mingle around. Should you be more involved in these other rooms? It kind of gave me flashbacks to Mike McCarthy. Towards the end of his tenure, Mike McCarthy had talked about he was being more involved in the defensive meetings and such. And I think that was towards the end of the Dom Capers era. But he had talked about, being more involved in the defensive meetings and such. But it just kind of caught me a little bit off guard. And I'm sure other coaches are just like that. Spending a lot more time in a certain room. If you're an offensive-minded head coach, you're probably spending a lot more time in offensive meetings, especially if you're the play caller. And I get it, because the other part in this whole thing, too, is Matt LaFleur is the offensive play caller. So, yes, he should be probably spending more time in the quarterback room, getting on the same page, the same game plan as his quarterback. So I hope a lot of people aren't overreacting to the quote, to the line from him saying, why isn't he working with the other team? This is why he doesn't have a good grasp on this team. And could he do a better job of it? Absolutely. And it sounds like he's at least trying to. But at the same breath, yeah, if there is a room that he's going to spend some more time in, it should be the quarterback room if he's going to continue to be the play caller, which he is. It makes sense. He did say, too, about Lucas Van Ness, that he's an important piece. We feel he's in a pretty good spot right now. Been watching him rehab and do all that. I know he's in a good headspace. Not really anything else that, this was when Chase Claypool was spotted. He said he's had great film out there. He's been productive, and he looks like he's in great shape, and he's big. We'll see how it goes. And right now, the Packers did not sign any of their tryout players from this past weekend. So, other than that, not a whole lot from LaFleur, from his presser. But a few of you have texted in what you would ask Jonathan Gannon, and a couple of you said, what was it about Green Bay? Why did you take the Green Bay job? And another texter, this is from another Matt that we have texting and saying, I would ask him, is he going to play more 3-4 or 4-3? And Richard says he would ask Jonathan Gannon, does he view Hargrave as the nose tackle, the rookie, or Devontae Wyatt? Okay. Yeah, I guess for, just to kind of revisit a couple of mine that I'd throw out there, I'd probably be, what did he learn? Is there something that he learned from his experience as a head coach that could better suit him as a play caller in his second run as a defensive coordinator? Was there something? Obviously he was a successful defensive coordinator with the Eagles, leading them to a Super Bowl appearance. So it helped him get the job as a head coach with the Cardinals. But looking at his last couple years with the Cardinals, is there something that maybe he learned that he feels like it would better suit him as a defensive coordinator in a position that, let's face it, it's a big spotlight. There's pressure on it. There's pressure on this whole team. There's pressure on the head coach and the offensive side. There's pressure on the defense and the defensive coordinator because you are in a win-now mode. The goal is championship. So was there something that he experienced as a head coach, or maybe kind of something, maybe I don't know how exactly to phrase this, but was there something that he feels he learned during his time as being the main guy in charge that could help him become a better play caller, defensive play caller? And, I think obviously he was probably drew to Green Bay I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I would imagine a couple things that drew him to Green Bay. One, get to coach Micah Parsons on defense. Two, you're on a team that's got Super Bowl championship aspirations. It's a talented team. So I would imagine those are probably a couple of things that he's going to mention. And, scheme-wise, schematically, I don't know if he's really going to, I doubt it, he's going to showcase his cards and tell everybody his game plan and such. But I'd be curious to know what he's going to do with his safeties. You hear a lot about he likes to play three safeties. Does that mean Javon Bullard moves out of that slot nickel role and transitions more into a typical safety, that shell type of coverage back there? How does he view the corner situation? Is he going to be aggressive with the corners? More zone, more press coverage with that? How does he view that? And yeah, I guess going back to the defensive tackle thing too, you look at some of the depth charts, they've got Hargrave listed as nose tackle, but is that his best spot? Can he kind of get Hargrave playing at the level he was when they were together in Philadelphia? There's definitely, and then we're going to hear from the special teams coordinator here today too. And I think to me that's the interesting one here, because when it comes to special teams and specifically the kicking game, I mean, he's coming into a situation where he's probably not that all familiar with how Lambeau Field plays in terms of the kicking game, because you hear Mason Crosby always talk about it. You heard Aaron Rodgers always talk about it, that the winds are different. They swirl differently inside Lambeau Field. Well, now you've also got a rookie kicker competing that probably has, no pun intended, a leg up on Brandon McManus. They're expecting Smack to take that job. But once you get into Lambeau, maybe when the temperatures cool off a little bit, you've got a brand new special teams coordinator coming in, pairing up with a potential rookie kicker. That's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic to follow once we get to that season. All right, we got to take a quick break. Plenty more to get to, though, coming up after these quick words. Coming up next weekend, it's Barbecue Fest going on at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds Friday and Saturday. We'll be there for a little bit with our good friends from Mike's Star Market on Saturday. But you can head on over to nwsfa.com and just click on BBQ Fest at the top there for details like your event schedule. They've got vendors going on, cornhole tournament, live music, backyard grilling competition, and such. So, but we'll be over there on Saturday for a little bit, hanging out with our good friends from Mike's Star Market. And then at 1 p.m., you've got the People's Choice Sampling opens at competitors' booths. 2 regular 9-pound pork loins are provided to each team, courtesy of Mike's Star Market. So winner drawn for brats, hot dogs, and burger package at 2 o'clock, 3 p.m., the People's Choice voting submission deadline, and then the winner drawn at 4. So a lot of good things happening, or a lot of stuff is going to be going on that day at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds for BBQ Fest. Looking forward to it for sure. Somebody had texted in asking, when does Taylor Jenkins have his intro presser for the Bucks, and when is the draft lottery? So that's all this week. It looks like Taylor Jenkins is going to have his introductory press conference with the Bucks on Wednesday. So it'll be on Wednesday, and then the draft lottery is actually this weekend on the 10th. So Sunday, we'll find out where the Bucks are potentially going to be drafting with the upcoming draft. So yeah, that's all happening this week. And I'm sure, when we get to Wednesday, we'll do our little thing we do once in a while. What would you ask Taylor Jenkins and that? And I think we all know what the main questions are going to be. Have you talked to Giannis? What's the status of Giannis? Is Giannis going to be back? And you can probably already tell what the answer is going to be. Would love to have him back, still working through, or just very generic, very, non-newsworthy at this point. But yeah, I've been creeping on Giannis's Instagram every once in a while. Every time I see him that he's posting up a new story, I'm like, okay, is there anything with Bucks related or that? And it's been fairly quiet, but I think I still think if you're the Bucks and the decision is he's going to be traded, don't you do it before the draft? Because all the experts continue to say that this draft is really good. It's got some really good talent in this thing. So if that decision is made that Giannis is going to be gone, that he's going to be traded, don't you do it for this year's picks? Don't you try to at least do that for this, like a high pick from this year's draft? Now, I know there was a rumor over the weekend, too, that apparently the Trailblazers are a team that is going to be heavy in their interest to acquire Giannis, which, right now you look at the Trailblazers and you look, hey, Drew Holiday, hey, Dave's over there too. So, again, let's because then I saw the Celtics were a team mentioned, which, after their short stint in the playoffs, first round exit, sure, their name's going to be brought up to try to kind of maybe recoup or regroup and then that. But there's going to insert team name here and insert a top team or a playoff team. You're probably going to find a report that's going to be linking them with Giannis. Just really quick, if you're wondering about the odds, top odds for the NBA draft lottery, Washington has the top one along with Indiana and Brooklyn. They're both or all three are at 14%. Utah's at 11.5%. Sacramento's 11.5%. Grizzlies 9%. The Pelicans 9.7%. Dallas 6.7%. Chicago 4.5%. Milwaukee 3%. Golden State 2%. Clippers 1.5%. Okay. Yes, is this the same one on here? Yeah. Okay. Milwaukee's got the 10th best ones, it looks like. All right. And again, they can't have the number. If they get the number one, it's going to be traded. So I'm definitely curious to see where they get it, what number they're going to get at this point. And does that affect any of this stuff? Even if, so say if they get Giannis, or say they're going to hold on to Giannis. They keep Giannis. Then does that pick become a trade chip to get talent that can help right now, or like a veteran to bring over? I feel like the draft is kind of the deadline with a lot of this stuff. If you trade Giannis, or the decision is to be moving on from Giannis, you do it now to get those picks for this year's draft. You keep Giannis. Okay, do you trade this year's pick, which is a lottery pick, to go get somebody that's out there? Or I guess the third option is you keep Giannis and you hope that this rookie, wherever they may be drafted, is going to be able to help Giannis right away. But I feel with that draft coming up on June 23rd, still about a month and a couple weeks, I feel like that's going to be the deadline, and that's when we're going to find out things when it comes to Giannis. And I don't have a good gauge either way. That's where I'm kind of interested to hear what Taylor Jenkins has to say on Wednesday. Has he talked to Giannis? It's almost like the whole Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers thing now. Mike McCarthy gets hired. First couple questions, Aaron Rodgers. Have you talked to Aaron Rodgers? What's the status of Aaron Rodgers? And if Taylor Jenkins comes in and says, I have not talked to Giannis, that might be a little bit of a light bulb. Like, oh, okay. So I'm at least hoping that he comes out there and says, yep, we've talked, we've had good conversations, and now we don't know if that'll actually be true or not, but it is what it is. So, all right, we got to take our final break for the third hour. We'll get back to some more baseball talk. Coming up next hour, we've got our local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. We'll hit up the Blue Golds and Stout and then some prep stuff as well. We've got some Glory Days brought to you by Summer Jam coming your way a little bit later on here too. But we're getting set for game one of this series with the Cardinals. Chad Patrick on the mound for the Brew Crew. It's a big early May series considering where things are at in this tightly contested National League Central. And then you're probably keeping an eye on that Cubs and Reds series too. But Brewers just 3.5 back from first place. Lots of baseball left to be played, as we obviously know. But it's a division series with, some early importance right now. So it could affect the standings and potential playoffs when we get later on in the season. So let's talk some more baseball, shall we? We'll take our final break in the third hour and be right back after these quick words. Speaking of the 250th birthday of Team America USA, starting on June 1st, I'm working on it right now, but starting on June 1st, up until the 4th of July, so it'll be July 3rd will be our last when we do it. I am working on a list that, hey, if you want to help contribute and help out, I'm an open book here. But a list of the top 250 most important / biggest sports things, games, items, events to happen in the last 250. Okay, USA-wise, not world, USA-wise. So I'm putting together a list of 250 of the most important, most iconic, or the best sports items, events, games. Like if you were to write the history of USA sports from the last 250 years, what would you put in there? And it could be a certain game. Like, for example, the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey is definitely going to be on there. You can put an event. You can put, the maybe like the emergence of the NFL or something like that. It could be something like that. So I'm putting together a list. I'm working on it right now, but I could use your help too. So if you've got a few that you would say, hey, of the last 250 years in the world of in the sports, American sports history. You got to put this on there. Hit me up on the email. Put it on the podcast email, okay? mancavepodmail@gmail.com. So I'm going to put it on. It'll be on the air thing. It'll be on the podcast thing and that. But I've got it worked out. So starting in June, let me bring up the calendar here. So, yeah, that Monday, June 1st, every weekday leading up to July 3rd, which is a Friday, we're going to do 10. 10 each day in honor of America's 250th birthday. So I could use your help if you want to. Otherwise, I've got my list, and I'm rolling with it right now. So, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some, but definitely it's pretty open-ended. It could be, the first World Series. It could be, Jackie Robinson, those things. Definitely. There's a lot of them. If you really start to think about it, there's a lot of them. I know, like, when you think about the number 250, you're like, geez, is there enough? There's enough. Believe me, there's definitely enough. So that should be fun. And I'm looking forward to, and I'm not going to rank them. I just think that's too hard to do. Like, this is the best one, or this was, 250. I don't want to do that. Just looking at 250 sports things. So, but yeah, hit me up, mancavepodmail@gmail.com with your picks or with your nominations. Coming up next hour, we'll get to our local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center, Justice Cleveland, WEAU 13 News will be joining us. So we'll break that down with him. We'll also do a little Glory Days with him, brought to you by Summer Jam. Brewers are back at it tonight, taking on the Cardinals. It seems like Andrew Vaughn's going to be with the team. Don't know about Jackson Chirio anymore after following a ball off his ankle/foot. X-rays were negative, but could it have a slight delay in his return to the lineup? We'll see. But could we see another player in the lineup and maybe making his debut? And that's one Cooper Pratt. Cooper Pratt yesterday was a late scratch from the lineup card. Nothing official yet of reasons why. I know Bryce Terang was sick yesterday, but that might have been just one game sort of thing. But could we see the debut of one Cooper Pratt this week? You look at that left side of the infield, it probably wouldn't be too big of a surprise if they decided to make a move. And right now, according to, this was a number or a statistic that I referenced a little bit earlier, the top hitting prospects over the past week by the Stat Line Prospect Pulse, Cooper Pratt was number one. You had a couple Brewers in the top six. Cooper Pratt was number one. Luis Lara was 3. Jet Williams was 6. But Cooper Pratt has been hitting the ball incredibly well as of late, something that we talked about on Friday. So is it possible that he maybe makes his debut today, this week? So not only could the Brewers get Andrew Vaughn and Jackson Chirio this week, maybe the debut of their new shortstop. And you look at the numbers from the left side at Joey Ortiz and Rengifo and Hamilton. They're not eye-popping. Now, Hamilton's numbers, when you kind of look at it, average-wise, he's way better than Ortiz and Luis. And Hamilton at least has a little bit more position flexibility with his ability to play short, third, and second. But the guy's got speed. He can lay down a bunt and get on base and turn that into a double with his ability to steal that bag. So let's say Cooper Pratt is called up. Who's the odd man out? I think it's Joey Ortiz. I think it's Ortiz because Rengifo can play third. I think he's played a little second, but he's also even gotten reps at first. Ortiz has, yes, he could play third, and he's obviously a shortstop too, but I wonder if it's Ortiz. Or maybe they keep him as the bench guy for a defensive replacement. I don't know. I feel like Hamilton's probably the guy that of those three is the most safe because of his ability to bunt the ball, his speed. He's already tied with Terang for the most steals on his team with 7. And the fact that he could play all across the infield. Maybe except first. You probably don't want him at first. But it might be time that we finally get Cooper Pratt up. That'd be... I think if you polled Brewers fans, they'd be pumped about that. It might be a big week this week to get not only Vaughn and Cheerio back, but the debut of Cooper Pratt. All right, we'll talk more baseball, though, with JC coming up next hour as we get set for the series against the Cardinals. It'll be on the road before the Brewers return home this weekend to take on the Yankees, a Yankees team that is just on fire right now, too, and especially Aaron Judge. So one game at a time, one series at a time, though. But we'll talk some more baseball coming up in the next hour. You can continue to send us your best and worst from the weekend, your VFW Post 305 best and worst from the weekend. All right, or if you just want to do best or just worst, you don't have both, that's fine. You can send those via that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line with a quick text at 715-830-1912, or you can join in on the Section 105 chat room. Nice. Zach says, got checked by the DNR on Saturday. They were doing licenses checks. Couple of nice guys. I told them I was DK, joking, but I did ask them if they knew Jake. And yeah, he's their supervisor. That's a cool story. Thanks for sharing that, Zach. Hey, if you had any luck, anybody out there, whether it was opening fishing or maybe you're still having some luck turkey hunting, don't forget to send those photos. We'll post them up on the Sports Talk Facebook page. So go to the Sports Talk Facebook page and just send the message over there, and we'll post it up and do a little bragging on your behalf. So if you had any luck, send it on over to the Sports Talk Facebook page, and we'll post that up. I'm hoping to get out on the water here soon and wet some lines. It was just the perfect weekend to do so this past weekend, and not able to, but oh well. We got time, right? All right, shot clock's going to cut me off in less than a minute, so we'll get to our news updates, and then we'll get Justice in here, and we'll talk some baseball. And like I mentioned, we'll talk local sports roundup, Blue Gold baseball, back in the WIAC tournament for the first time since 1995. Softball's back in the WIAC tournament, too. I know we just had track and field WIAC championships, so we'll talk some college and we'll talk some high school as we inch a little bit closer and closer maybe to some postseason play here on the prep side of things as well. And then plus we'll do our Summer Jam Glory Days segments coming up in the final hour. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back after these quick news updates for the final quarter, the final hour of the program, after these quick words.